It's the second league game of 2019 and the pressure is on. Liverpool remain in top spot, but do defeats to Manchester City and Wolves dent the Reds' confidence? Jason McAteer is here with me to look back at those games and ahead to Brighton. Jason, can you sum up those last two games for me?
I think disappointing probably would be the word that we probably are looking for. Obviously going into the Manchester City game, you know, we could have extended the lead to 10 points over City that night, and I think we would have felt a little bit of breathing space between us and Manchester City had the points gone to that gap, and maybe, certainly from my perspective, I think Liverpool possibly would have had one hand on the trophy. I don't think Manchester City, with all their experience and all their quality, would have got back at Liverpool and closed that gap. So obviously to lose the game was disappointing from that aspect, because the lead then gets cut to 4 points and then it becomes a psychological battle. Liverpool still sitting on top, but we know the quality of Manchester City, and with that small gap we know there's no room for error. So the psychological battle now is, you know, we've got to keep on winning, we've got to stay top, and we're not to look at what Manchester City are doing. The Wolves scenario was completely different. It was a cup game. It was probably for me the right fixture for Liverpool. You know, I think another league game straight after Manchester City, when everyone is still talking about it and it's still fresh in everyone's mind. The pressure, I think, if Liverpool had gone into a Premier League game, would have been immense. So it was nice to get away from Premier League action. It was nice to just take a breath, let the dust settle, go into an FA Cup game. But unfortunately, due to circumstances of injuries, the manager didn't really have his full squad to pick from. So we were a very young team on the night. Obviously, Dejan Lovren's injury after 5 or 10 minutes didn't help the matters, because the area of concern is obviously in the defence. And then the result went against us. So, you know, there's pros and cons about the Wolves game. Obviously, disappointment going out the cup, because I felt we had a realistic opportunity of winning silverware this year, certainly in that competition. But the pros are it's less football. We managed to obviously rotate the squad, keep the squad fresh, and sitting 4 points ahead. Obviously the Premier League is our priority.
So KORNER Hoover made his debut on Monday. Do you think there's a chance for him to pick up some minutes today?
Well, you can never say never in football, and I don't think he had any expectations of playing really against Wolves the other night. It was only down to Dejan's injury that he managed to get onto the pitch so early, and in some ways it probably helped him. You know, if he probably ever was told he was going to start the game, then the nerves might have been able to settle in and, you know, take a hold of him, and we mightn't have got that kind of performance. But the fact that Dejan went off after 10 minutes, he was really thrust into the action and told really to get on with it. So there was no time for nerves and no time for him to think about it. So he really applied himself very, very well. Obviously only 16 years of age, you could tell the inexperience of positional play was slightly there, but overall I thought he was excellent. Different ask for him today. You know, we've got Virgil van Dijk to come back in. Obviously Trent will go back in on the right, and Robinson will go in on the left hand side. So obviously there's a gap there because Matip is still injured. Gomez, as we know, is still injured. So it looks like Fabinho, who played against Wolves at centre half, will slot in with Virgil van Dijk today. So I wouldn't say he'd start the game, but if there's another injury, then he possibly might get on.
Do you think Fabinho will be able to cope with the pressure of playing in the Premier League as a centre back? Yeah,
I think the test, obviously, the other night against Wolves was a big one. You know, Wolves only made 2 changes to what was their usual first team, and even the 2 players that came in, you know, were very capable of slotting in and doing a job. He was tested, he was asked questions, and I thought he dealt with it particularly well. It's not his strongest position, as we know, but he does play as a defensive midfielder, so he has got a defensive mind. He does always err on the side of caution. So yeah, I thought he adapted himself really, really well the other night. Plus he was alongside a youngster, so he was looking after him as well, with Hoover being alongside him so early on. So today, you know, the sort of leadership qualities that he's going to need will be taken away from him, because Virgil van Dijk will slot back in there and he'll be able to concentrate more on his own job. It's going to be a tough ask, because as we know, Glenn Murray is playing well for Brighton, scored 8 goals this season, and he's a wily old character, Glenn. So he's got to keep his eyes open. He's got to keep full concentration, otherwise we'll get punished.
Okay, so after heading into the new year as Premier League leaders, I chatted to some LFC fans about what it would mean to them for the Reds to win the title.
Yeah, I think Liverpool have been a chance of winning the league based on the defence. I think they've had issues over the last few years. They had a chance a few years back, they blew it. But I think they've tightened it up. Probably the best defence in the league by far. And I feel that this will be the biggest opportunity they're going to get.
Really good players like Van Dijk and Salah, and they've just been doing outstanding, keeping the team alive.
Doubtful worries me when we're top and flying just before Christmas, going on past history, but I do think, I think this, because of Klopp, I think he's going to drive us to the end this year. I'm all for them and all behind them, so yeah, excited.
I think the team at the moment are really dedicated because they have a manager that brings them all together, who makes them get 100% out of them. And I think this is the year that we are going to do it and should do it. If we don't, there's only ourselves to blame.
I've seen them win the league a lot of times, but it's been that long now. Also for the youngsters coming through as well, they've never seen us win the league. And yes, I think maybe this could be, I would say I am 90% certain, yes, that they can win the league this season.
Well, it means everything to me. I've been a Liverpool supporter since I was a baby, so for me it's everything for my dad, everything for my family, and I just think it's great for Liverpool, and it's about time we were back on top.
It'll mean everything, mostly for my son, who hasn't really seen them win anything at the moment, but it's about time we got back on the top of the tree.
To me, it'd mean that being the wife of a supporter who's gone to see Liverpool for years and years and seen all, winning all the cups, and a son who hasn't seen a lot of them winning the cups, it'd mean a lot for me to let them see it in our time.
Like everything, because I've supported them since I was born, and like my dad and everything, we'd just be proper happy.
It would be absolutely superb for me. I would go out to celebrate every night after we clinch the title.
Thank you very much.
So you can see what winning the league means to the fans, but do you think we need to avoid getting ahead of ourselves?
That's always the danger. There's so much more press these days, certainly from when I was playing. Social media, everyone's sort of got an opinion. There's a lot more back pages to fill now, and everyone is, I would say there's a lot of people on Liverpool's side who would like them to get over the line. We've got fans all over the world, and I think neutrals would like to see Liverpool win it after so many years. But I think it's massively important that the manager keeps or tries to keep the players away from the talk. There is an excitement there is an optimism certainly around the city. And being 4 points clear, Liverpool are in new territory because we've always been the team that's sort of been chasing. We've never sort of been hunted down, sitting at the top of the table. And we know the quality of Manchester City. We know the quality of Chelsea and Arsenal and Tottenham. And Manchester United have found a new lease of life under Solskjaer. But also we're sort of entering a period after this Christmas time now where fatigue sets in psychologically and mentally. It gets tiring. And then we enter the last 10 games of the season where teams are fighting relegation. So you're looking at teams that are sort of in the bottom 3 and the bottom 6 who are fighting for points. So they offer a bigger challenge. So there's so much more football to be played in different circumstances. But Liverpool have got to stand up to that challenge. I'm quietly optimistic that we've got the squad and the manager and the mentality to get over the line.
So when you look at the league table and then you take into account that Liverpool have won their last 5 games against Brighton, do you think their luck will continue today?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say a lot of it is luck. I do agree, I think there's luck involved in football, but I think the quality of Liverpool against Brighton has certainly shown over the last couple of seasons, none more so than last season, where we took maximum points against them, scored lots of goals. I think we scored 9 goals, only conceded 1 against them. And I'm never one when I'm doing punditry, never one for dwelling on past games. You know, you look, there's new players have come into the squad at Brighton. Liverpool have got new players. It's a different game. You should always take the game for itself. And you know, Liverpool, you know, they need to bounce back today. Brighton are in very, very good form. They're unbeaten in the last 4 games. It will be a tough game. Knowing Chris Hughton, he's very organised, the manager of Brighton. He's a very honest man. He likes to set his teams up hard to beat. They don't score a great deal of goals, but they're a tough ask down at the Amex. So, you know, it's not a given for Liverpool. Like I said, you know, the stats will show that Liverpool are beaten in the last 2 games, even though we know the circumstances. But it's just all about the psychological pressure that Liverpool have got to deal with, and that is bouncing back today, putting a good performance in and taking 3 points.
Quick prediction for today then.
Well, it's always a tough one. I'm going to go for a Liverpool win. You know, I've mentioned before, Liverpool have scored a lot of goals against Brighton in the past. I don't think it's going to be that case today. I think it'll be slightly nervy today from Liverpool, but I do think we'll get in front. I think we'll ride a storm, and I think we'll get a second. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory for Liverpool.
Thank you. Well, you've heard it here first, and that's all we have time for today. My thanks to Jason as always, and join me next time when I'll be looking back at the Brighton game, as well as ahead to the game against Crystal Palace. Bye for now.